In today's video, I have to survive 100 days on the Atlantic Ocean. I have 3 objectives. First, create my very own gigantic warship. Second, defeat Megalodon, the king of the ocean. And third, eliminate Redbeard, the ruler of the southern Atlantic. Can I survive? Stay tuned to find out. My boat's ready at the port. It's time to set sail on the Atlantic Ocean. Nothing like the ocean breeze. Is that a storm ahead? This isn't gonna be good. I'm losing control of the ship. My sails, what the heck? Oh gosh, no, 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 no! Oh, what the heck happened? Where's my ship? All we've got is our fishing rod too. Looks like we're gonna have to survive. And so I began using what was left of my ship to try and survive. All of our ship debris looks like it was scattered all over the ocean. Some of this stuff doesn't look like it came from our ship though. Maybe this was all the debris from the hurricane? Either way, we used our fishing rod to fish up as many materials as I saw. We made ourselves a stone pick, used some leftover wood to expand our raft a little bit, and gathered up the rest of the logs. Now that night had struck, there was a spider that was floating towards me. I took out the spider, and there were some zombie drowns that tried swimming up to attack me. Thankfully, I had a stone axe to defend myself. I then made myself a bed and went to sleep. I woke up for day 2 and got straight back to work. Crafted myself some chests, placed down some grass that we got from the debris, planted some trees, chopped some wood, collected some more items floating by, expanded my raft a bit more. Luckily, I found myself some carrots from the debris. Then I expanded my raft with some of the wood I gathered. On day 3, I realized I needed to light up my raft, so I placed down some torches, farmed a little bit, and then I saw a cake mixed in with all the debris. How'd that get there? Did the hurricane destroy a bakery or something? While admiring my cake, I noticed there was cows floating by all of a sudden. It's a little bit spooky to see cows out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, but at the same time, now I wasn't as lonely. So I brought the 2 cows onto my raft, and now there wasn't only just cows, there were sheep, chickens, and pigs floating by. Did the hurricane blow up Noah's Ark or something? I then noticed a creeper, tried to pull it in to kill it, but that kind of backfired and killed both of my chickens. Well, that's unfortunate. I then looked out and saw a panda floating by. I knew I had to get this panda on my raft, so I used some wood to stop it from floating by and made a little platform for it. Comment down below what I should name the panda. And on day 4, I noticed there was a dolphin. While looking for more items, I found myself a golden ingot. How'd that get there? I then made an animal pen for the cows, farmed some more wood and tended to my crops. I then spent the rest of day 4 purging as much kelp as I could from the surrounding area. This stuff was everywhere. While getting rid of a ton of kelp near my raft, I came up for air and noticed there was an abandoned shipwreck ahead of me. I must have been barely out of view of it. I took a breath and went down to explore. I needed a way to stay underwater for long, so I made myself some oak doors. This created an air pocket for me, which basically allowed me to stay underwater for as long as I wanted to. Using the oak doors, I went inside the shipwreck and looked around. At first, I didn't see anything until I opened the trap door and realized there was a chest. Opened the chest and there was a treasure map and some golden ingots. When I opened the map, it showed there was an island. There was actually land out here? I was surprised to say the least. So I got some supplies at my raft, and for the next few days, I began searching for this island. There was even a spot marked on one of the islands. It took me a few days, but I ended up finding it. So on day 9, I finally stepped foot on land and was immediately greeted by a skeleton. As a matter of fact, there was mobs everywhere. I had to take care of some of these mobs before I could actually explore the island. Now that creeper did most of the work for me, I began climbing up the hill at the center of the island and found myself a chest. Inside the chest, there was a dungeon key. Where would we use that? While defeating that spider, I noticed there was a parrot, so I gathered some seeds and tamed the parrot. I think I'm gonna call this guy Hopper. All of a sudden, a creeper came out of the woods. I hit it back once, tried hitting it back again, but it still blew up. I was devastated. My new friend was gone just like that. All I had left to remember him by was a feather. So I took the feather and went to the other island that was on the map. I needed to avenge Hopper. I looked up onto the hill and there seemed to be nothing. But when I looked inside the cave, there was a door. If this was actually a dungeon, I was gonna need some sort of protection. So for the rest of day 10, I mined the surrounding iron and coal in the cave, smelted the iron, and made myself an iron chest plate. I felt like I was ready enough. I saw there was a Hopper, so I threw the dungeon key in and the door opened. What the heck is this thing? It was an undead crewmate. So I quickly took him out. I had a feeling that making the iron chestplate was a good decision. As I went down the cave, there was even more of these undead crewmates. What were they trying to protect? I took out the undead crewmate, turned the corner, and there were 2 spawners. There were drowned zombies and more undead pirates. After tangling with some of the undead crewmates, I took out the first spawner, killed the last few drowned zombies, and then broke the last spawner. There seemed to be some barrels behind these iron bars, as well as some TNT. There weren't much in the first few barrels, but the last barrel I opened had a treasure treasure map. It showed another island with an X on it. Hopefully this wasn't taking me on a wild goose chase. After following the map for about a day, I found what looked to be the island on the map. I dug around in the sand but couldn't find anything at first. I climbed up this hill and realized there was sand at the top. I dug through the sand and found myself a double chest. Inside the chest was lots of treasure. Blocks of gold, golden ingots, golden nuggets, and even better, a golden sword called a golden saber. At first I thought it was just a normal golden sword, but this sword actually gave me speed 2 when I held it. Now that is really useful. So now that I found the treasure, it was time to head back home. So for the next 3 days we boated back and arrived back to our raft on day 17. I immediately noticed there was gold ingots floating by, and even gold ore. Got myself an emerald and even diamond ore. Not to mention I got another cake. So for the rest of day 17, I kept fishing out as many ores as I could find. I woke up for day 18, I found another diamond, and even found myself a trident. What did this hurricane not pick up? We then gathered our crops and bred our cows. And don't think I forgot about our good friend Hopper. I made something so we could all remember our little friend. We then crafted ourselves a diamond pick and diamond axe, and then continued fishing the stuff floating by. We then made ourselves an enchantment table and found some sheep that were floating by. So I brought the sheep over to my raft. I then found a friend for our other sheep and made a pen for our sheep to stay in. I then sheared the sheep and made myself a giant crafting table. This crafting table was 6 by 6. I made myself a ship sail with 9 wool and started gathering materials for our stage 1 ship. I was gonna need a lot of wood for it, so I chopped down as many trees as I could, used that wood to craft some reinforced wood, and then with the reinforced wood and the sails, we crafted ourselves a tier 1 ship. It looked like a little ship in a bottle. Once we threw the tier 1 ship, a ton of wood started to appear, and up sprang a brand new ship. This was gonna be a lot better than our current raft. So for the rest of day 21 and into day 22, I started gathering the materials from my raft and bringing them onto my new ship. After transferring all the materials onto my ship, I decided it was time to go out and explore. So after a couple of days, I ran into an island. This island was a lot larger than the last one we found. So I climbed up and found some hermit crabs on the shore. After admiring those for a little bit, I ended up finding myself a cave and decided I'd mine for the rest of the day. However, there was an obscene amount of creepers in this cave. Not really sure why. So after mining for the rest of day 23, I decided to exit the cave. I immediately ran into a creeper, but then started getting bowed by a strange looking goblin. Where the heck did these goblins come from? Not really sure how I didn't notice them at first, but they were very small. I ended up taking out the few that jumped me, but I was still confused where they were coming from. When I looked up at this archer goblin, I noticed there was a tree house. I don't know how I didn't spot that before, but that must have been where they were coming from. I went in the direction of the tree house and noticed there was a teepee underneath it. There was a bunch more goblins for me to defeat, and after I defeated all the goblins, I looked inside the tent and there wasn't much in it, so I then decided to go up into the tree house. And of course, I was greeted by a bunch of goblins, and there was a pretty good amount of them too. They started to do some decent damage, but I made sure to keep eating my carrots to keep my health up. After I defeated all the goblins, I noticed the treehouse had a path that led further up into the island. So I followed the path and defeated a few goblins along the way, and while fighting even more goblins, I noticed there was a shrine up the stairs ahead. All of a sudden, there was a goblin king attacking me and summoning in goblins. This was not good. He barely missed me with a giant axe, but that gave me an opportunity to land a hit. He then summoned in a goblin shaman, which gave me poison and nausea. It also went invisible. I then jumped at the goblin king and landed the final hit. After defeating the rest of the goblins, I noticed the goblin king had dropped a chest. So I looted the chest, and out came a bunch of loot. After all that, I needed to get some rest, so I went to the tent and went to sleep. However, when I woke up for day 25 and went back to my boat, there was a ton of goblin shamans waiting for me. I tried defeating them, but they kept poisoning me and giving me nausea, and they would disappear almost every time I attacked. So I decided to just get the heck out of there and get on my boat and get away from that island. So I started traveling back to my raft and made it back on day 28. For the rest of day 28, I made a sugarcane farm, fished out some more ores out of the ocean, managing to get myself some lapis and redstone, had enough diamonds to craft a chest plate and boots, enchanted them both, and on day 29, I saw a school of jellyfish right next to my boat. Pretty cool looking creatures. And for the rest of day 29, I renovated the ship a little bit and decided it was time to explore again. After a couple days of searching, I ended up running into a pirate ship. Undead pirates started jumping off of it and started to attack me immediately. I battled them in the water for a little bit, but then I started drowning. So I went back to the surface, climbed onto the pirate ship, and started to fight the crew. I defeated the undead pirates on the top deck. I then went to the bottom deck and started to fight them there too. There was a lot of them, but I managed to defeat them all. I noticed there was an axe and an item frame. What the heck was this thing? It was called an undead hammer. And when I was holding it, it gave me slowness and strength. The ability it had allowed me to leap forward a few blocks. Pretty cool ability. I then journeyed for another 4 days and found myself a massive island. There was even a river that led through the island. I kept following the river and left my boat at the shore. I ended up finding a cave, mined a bit of iron, and then ended up finding a water cave. It was really dark, so I used some nearby glow shrooms to light it up. I found what looked like an air pocket, entered, and it was another part of the cave. There were undead pirates guarding hearing it for some reason. What the heck were these things doing here? After fighting and defeating the undead pirates, I followed the rest of the cave. There was a sword in the item frame called Redbeard's Bane, and the description was complete gibberish. When I held it, it withered me and gave me weakness 3. This sword is definitely cursed in some way. I'm gonna have it for keepsake, but I was not gonna use it. So on day 39, we left the island and ran into a water temple on the way back. So I entered the water temple, and to make sure I didn't drown, I used the torch method, basically just spamming torches on the wall. Only reason I couldn't use doors is because there were slabs everywhere. After a while, I ended up finding the Elder Guardian and started to attack it. While attacking it, I wasn't really paying attention to my bubbles, so I actually started drowning. I quickly swam away. I started spam placing torches on the wall and ate an apple really quickly so I could start regenerating. I actually nearly died here. It was pretty scary. After I got away, used the torches to stay alive, I ate my remaining food and went in to finish off the Elder Guardian. Whew, that was a close one. For about 4 days of travel, I finally returned back to my ship. When I went to deposit my loot, a message popped up on my screen. Welcome to the Nether Age? I was confused at first, but when I looked in the water, it made sense. Lots of nether items started to float by in the water, so I started fishing up as many of the items as I could. I even got some piglin spawn eggs. So I spawned them in, but then I remembered piglins are hostile, so I had to kill them. So I went back out fishing and ended up finding myself villager spawn eggs, and I placed them at the bottom of my ship. For day 45, I farmed some carrots, bred the sheep and cows, found myself some more diamonds, crafted and enchanted some diamond pants, found myself a blaze rod, and added some bookshelves to the enchantment room. On day 46, we chopped a ton of wood, and on day 47, we fished as much as we could, managing to find myself netherwarts and soul sand. At the start of day 48, I made myself a netherwart farm. After all that work, I decided it was time to go exploring. And on day 49, I ended up finding what looked to be a destroyed ship. There was even fire still going at some parts of the ship. This thing looked like it was blown to smithereens. I went up to investigate it, and there was some sort of red barrel. I wonder what the heck destroyed this ship. So on day 50, we returned back to our ship. On the morning of day 51, we started gathering materials to craft our tier 2 ship. This time we made strong wood out of oak wood and iron, made 3 sets of sails, and crafted ourselves a tier 2 galleon. So I built out a small platform to place our ship, threw down our tier 2 galleon, and watched as it built itself. And oh my goodness, this thing looked awesome. This one was just a little bit bigger than the other one. I ended up spending the rest of the day moving all of my stuff onto this new ship, which turned out fairly well. I decided to go adventuring again, and after 3 days found myself another island. This one seemed pretty small, but I already saw a door on the side of the mountain. So I walked up to it, entered it, and it seemed to be some sort of parkour. All of a sudden, lava had covered the floors, and I realized this was kind of a one-way entrance. I probably just could have broken out, but you know what? Challenge accepted. So I made my way up the parkour, which honestly wasn't too bad, and I made the last jump and arrived at the very top. I was a little bit confused and was expecting some sort of prize, but maybe I was expecting a little too much, because there ended up being absolutely no prize. I ended up leaving the island empty-handed and spent the next 3 days returning back to base. And from day 60 to 61, I started to brew potions. First batch was speeds and strength potions, and then my second batch of potions was a bunch of regeneration. I also crafted and enchanted a diamond helmet and made water breathing potions. I decided now I was pretty geared, I'd go exploring in the ocean again. While exploring, I swam with some sea turtles, and all of a sudden the sea turtles were gone, and instead there was a ton of sharks. As soon as I got hit once, they smelled blood and started swarming me. The kelp made it extremely hard to hit them. I started to take them out one by one. Luckily I had good armor, otherwise I would have been toast. I was expecting a little more sharks, but I got a little too quiet. I looked around a little bit, and all of a sudden, a wild megalodon had snuck up on me. This was not good. My diamond axe was about to break. I needed to drink all my potions, otherwise I was gonna die. I managed to drink them all, and the megalodon kept on attacking me. I needed to use my shield as much as possible, and as I suspected, my diamond axe broke. Luckily, I brought the spare undead hammer, but if I hadn't, I would have been toast. The megalodon was starting to get low, but I was as well. I used my shield to block its attacks, and kept on welling away with my undead hammer. It hit me again really hard, and I was at 1.5 hearts, but luckily I landed the final hit. It ended up dropping megalodon teeth. So I returned back to base with the megalodon teeth, and once I returned on day 69, it had turned into the special age. What the heck did that mean? I checked the water, and there was a dragon's breath, glistening melons, golden carrots, and EXP bottles. So I placed down the anvil, checked the water again, and there was netherite tools floating by. I also got glowstone, so once it was day 70, I started to brew. I brewed myself instant health 2, tattoos using the glistening melons. And using the megalodon teeth, I made myself a megalodon set of armor. So I enchanted each piece. It looked awesome. And last but not least, I made a megalodon scimitar. The megalodon scimitar had multiple different abilities. I could leap 20 meters into the air without taking any fall damage. That was pretty helpful. So for the rest of day 70, I fished up more materials. And from day 71 to 79, I decided to start working on my tier 3 warship. So I fished as many diamonds as I could, sheared all my sheep, renovated my base, chopped all the logs that I needed, and with the giant crafting table, crafted indestructible wood. With the indestructible wood and sails, this made a tier 3 warship. So I built out a platform, threw down the tier 3 warship, leaped backwards, and watched as it built. Once it was built, it was massive. I was really impressed on how it looked. I leapt on board and did a quick little inspection. Afterwards, I decided I would move everything onto the new ship. So for the next 2 days, I moved all my stuff onto the tier 3 warship. I also made sure to light up the entire ship, and while emptying the final chest, the message popped up, endgame age. I could only imagine what would spawn now. I looked in the water and found netherite armor. Okay, I probably wasn't gonna need that considering I had megalodon armor, but I kept it anyways. I looted a bunch more stuff from the water, and then crafted myself 9 golden apples. I then decided it was time to explore. So for the next 6 days, I explored out with my boat, and something had started to render in the distance. It looked like some sort of submarine. This submarine was in the shape of a shark, and when I entered, there were skulls everywhere. I carefully made my way to the back of the submarine, and noticed there was some sort of map on the wall, as well as a compass. Maybe this submarine was tracking down the ship, and the compass was pointing in one direction. So I decided to swim out of the submarine, and started to boat in the direction the compass was pointing. And after 4 days of travel, I finally found it. This must have been the fabled ship of Redbeard, the ruler of the Southern Atlantic. This was it, the final battle. I climbed up the vines, and walked through the entrance, coming face to face with Redbeard and his undead crew. He immediately pulled out his gun and shot me, and his entire crew jumped onto me. I decided to try and go straight for him. What was he doing? He appeared to kick some sort of explosive barrel, which luckily missed, but kicked me away into his crew. I decided to pop a golden apple for safe measures. While running around, I drank all my potions, and decided to try and take out all the crewmates first. The area of effect attacks with my scimitar was making a huge difference right now. I decided to get past the undead crew, and started to target Redbeard instead. I did some good damage, but his crew ran me off. All of a sudden, he shot me again, which did some really good damage. I had to pop down to instant health, and eat a golden apple. At this point, I had defeated most of his crew, so it was almost a 1v1. Only a few more to go. I had finally defeated all of his crew, and it was time to focus him down. He was not playing around though, and kept shooting me over and over again. He was even summoning more crewmates. I needed to back up a little bit to heal, and then I went in for the final blow and took out Redbeard. I did it. I defeated the ruler of the Southern Atlantic. So I spent the next 3 days returning back to base, and on day 100, I had made it back. If you guys made it this far, make sure to check out Painful's video as well. He was stranded in the Northern Atlantic and had much different objectives. Also, if you'd like to further support me, check out our Patreon, which is linked in the description below. You'll get exclusive access to our SMP server, video teasers, and much more. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.